going to show you how to do today is to check your batteries with a multimeter and change a battery if necessary. Here we've got both our batteries they're in battery boxes. This is our number 1 engine starter battery and this is our number 2 boat systems battery. This is the one that we're going to change today. The first thing we've got to do, of course, is to make sure the batteries are off, and I have checked that on both switches down here. So now we can remove the cover for this particular battery, which is the one that we're going to change today. Okay. Today we're going to check these batteries with a digital multimeter, and what we're looking for is a state of charge about 12.5 ideally, which would be about 80% of charge, which is fine. A fully charged battery, you're looking at about 12.7. If your battery is reading under 12, then you've got problems. Now, I charged this battery up a couple of weeks ago when she was out of the water, and when I finished the charge she was 12.5. So let's see what she is now. So you plug the terminals in, set the multimeter to the 12 volt DC symbol, which is the boat supply. Place the red on the positive, the black on the negative, and let's see what we've got. Well, we've only got 11.3, so this battery is well and truly dead, and we're going to swap it with the new one. Let's just see what the new one's reading. Well, here we got 12.7 dropping to 12.67, so this is fine. Disconnected the negative and I put the cables out of the way, and now I'll disconnect the positive terminal. Again, place the cables carefully out of the way because you don't want to damage those or strain them. There's a lot of cables linked into both terminals, so you've got to make sure they're protected. Now the battery's free and I can remove it. Bear in mind that this battery is going to be heavy, so you need to brace yourself and keep your back straight when you're lifting it out if you haven't got somebody to help you, because it's very easy to do your back in if you're bending over into a tight lock when you try and heave it out. So if you can get a decent footing and a decent firm grip on the battery, it's much easier then to lift it out, place it on that mat there. This is the new battery which is going in. Thing to think about the orientation of the terminals. We had our negative on the starboard side before, so again we want our negative terminal over this side to marry up with the existing terminal. Similarly with our positive, which is over the port side, that has to go in this side. Right, now we're going to reverse the order of connecting the terminals when we reconnect this new battery. The positive goes on first and then the negative, again for the same reason. We don't want to slip with a spanner and short out the battery. When you're putting in a new battery, it's a good idea to grease the terminals to get a good connection. I've already pre-greased these when I took out the battery before, so these can go straight back on. I've put on the positive lead to the positive terminal, but I'm not going to do up that nut tight yet because I want to make sure that the orientation of the cables is right, so that when I put the lid of the battery box on, it's going to sit on that snugly. The next job is to put on the negative lead to the negative terminal. Okay, make sure it's pressed down nice and firmly. And again, I'm not going to tighten that up just yet until I make sure that the lid of the box sits snugly on those cables. Now this is the lid of the battery box. Now with the positive terminal it sits snugly, but because this is a central terminal on the negative side as well, you can see that the cables are slightly snagging on the side of the box here, and I don't really want it to do that, so I'm just going to take a little bit off there, trim that panel off there so that the lid sits snugly over these cables. Before I trim the lid, the next job is to tighten these leads up. You want to make sure you don't over tighten these. It's just a nice firm connection. Okay. That's the new battery installed. So that the cables run snugly from the terminal on the negative side, I'm going to trim a little bit of the top of this battery box, which is plastic, and for that I'm going to use a hacksaw. I've trimmed that panel, and now I'm just going to strap the lid of the battery box down again. Next job, of course, is I've got to make sure the battery is working, so I'm just going to switch it on. I know this is number 2, so this particular switch goes to number 2, and I'll go and check that with my instruments in the wheelhouse. Okay, I'll switch the battery on now. It's the number 2 battery, and I've put the switch to number 2, so I'm just going to press my navigational instruments on. And everything's working, so I know that battery's now connected. Well, that's the job done. That's the battery changed. It's a simple but very important job. And the final job, of course, is to dispose of the old battery. And I won't be needing this anymore either, which is distilled water, deionized water, which you use for topping up the lead cells. But the one I've put in is a maintenance-free battery, so I won't need to worry about that anymore, apart from, of course, checking that it's in charge.